Hi everyone, and welcome to the Capricorn March 2022 Illumination reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. So hi everyone and welcome. So this reading specifically is meant to help you find the meaning in the challenge or challenges you are currently experiencing so that you can better answer your why. Why am I going through this right now? What is Spirit trying to allow me to better see about my path and purpose, and something within me that needs to be unlocked in facing this challenge that can be of service to both myself and the greater collective experience. So, Capricorn, I'm going to jump right in here. We're going to start your reading off by taking a look at what you're moving into March with as far as your internal energy. Then we'll pull some cards to take a look. Ooh, that's half the deck. We'll see if we can get a few less. And then we'll pull some cards here to take a look at what's going on in your external environment. Oh, still too many, but there is the Ace of Swords. I'm going to keep that. I feel like that's important. Oh, and Temperance. Okay, let's see if anything else wants to come out for internal energy here. There's something around clarity. Oh, and Death. Okay. So I got a lot going on for you, Capricorn. So let's go ahead and see what's going on in your external environment. Okay, we have the Six of Cups and why. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting reading, Capricorn. Okay, so let me kind of break this down before we pull additional clarifier cards here. So the card that came out that I felt like I needed to keep was the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is a card that really speaks to clarity. It can also speak to kind of a newfound connection to your personal truth. Now with Temperance and the Death coming up here, Temperance to me is a card that really, for me personally, outside of just the standard meaning of the card, this card really represents kind of almost like an angelic melding, almost like an angelic happening of circumstances to allow you to bring into balance something that might not have otherwise been so, meaning that there's this feeling that comes through here of kind of having to adapt to change, but with divine guidance behind it, so that you're able to take passion and emotion and bring them together in a slightly different way. And this is all to allow you to experience a sense of freedom. And Death, which is interesting, has, now these two cards actually come one right after the other. The Death card is number 13 and Temperance is number 14. So you're moving from, you're basically making a progression, which is interesting because these two cards to me both always kind of indicate some element of freedom, of release. Death is the understanding that everything dies, but in order for something new to be reborn, something has to basically change shape. And generally that means that the matter has to almost like decompose for something else new to come out. So there is this true feeling of that elemental freedom that comes with when something is truly released from its form, its original form, and then something can come from that. So there is this feeling for you, Capricorn, coming strongly through, and I'm sorry if I can't quite get this out clearly because this is really strong energy here. There is something around clarity of a part of yourself internally that needs to be freed, released. And I do feel like what's interesting with the Temperance card coming up, there is this element of kind of bringing in both fire and water and tempering those together. And then you have air with the Ace of Swords. So you have everything here minus earth, minus the physical. So there's a lot of transformation going on right now internally, in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your passion, this kind of feeling of like wanting to take action. But there is an element of knowing that some part of yourself must be released to be transformed and actually kind of melt, how would we say this, like alchemized into something different. And there is a clarity around understanding this because it has something to do with a newfound connection to your personal truth. Now, in your external environment, you have the Six of Cups. And what is the Six of Cups? The Six of Cups is one that really speaks to nostalgia. It speaks to having sometimes a second opportunity to do something slightly different this time around. It also can speak to people from the past coming back. It can also speak to you remembering a part of yourself from the past and receiving a gift, an emotional gift of remembrance of who you were and something from that time that you could now bring forward. What I'm really feeling here is a second chance to emotionally connect to something in your life that's coming back around again, whether this is a second chance at a relationship, whether this is a second chance at fulfilling a dream career, whether this is a second chance of even just reconnecting with truly a passion of yours from the past. And why? Why are you being asked to release something internally, to let some type of emotion and possibly this somehow something that you've done that is both passion and emotion tied up in it? What needs to be released to allow this new clarity of self to come out, to be able to connect for the second chance? Because you're learning how to balance. You're discovering the divine law of blind, truly divine justice. Justice in the tarot really does speak to obviously balance, and it speaks to possibly contracts. So some of you may be actually having a second chance at emotionally connecting in a different way to a contract that you are currently bound by. Now, this could be a marriage contract, this could be a work contract, this could be even just a contract you hold yourself to internally, saying I am contractually, holding myself bound to possibly support another or to be of service to the greater collective experience. But there's something around here about having a second chance around something that you are contractually bound to. There also is the higher understanding here that truly sometimes we go through life and we feel that things are unfair, that we see ourselves putting so much effort in and we don't get the same back, or we see unfair things happening to other people and we don't understand why that is. And this is really speaking to that faith that the whole kind of underlying principle of the universe is balance. For everything that is hot, there is something cold. For everything that is a bazillion miles away, there is something very close. For everything that is tall, there is something equally tiny. And that's just kind of the makeup of the universe. And so there is this feeling here of understanding that there is in this second chance of kind of reconnecting to something from the past and possibly around a contractual agreement, that you have the ability to see that maybe around something that perhaps you didn't think was fair, you now are understanding the lesson that needed to be learned there, or the possible you might be actually receiving some type of reward, or possibly the other way around. I can't speak to everybody's circumstance, but there is this feeling here of being able to understand that in some aspect of where you thought there was a lack of fairness, that it will be balanced, and that you'll understand that sometimes balance may take beyond our lifetime to achieve. That fairness, as we can understand it, might go beyond our understanding, that what we think is unfair, that there is a divine purpose for that. Okay, Cancer, I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. So I'm going to take a look at and pull some cards here, and we're going to really kind of dive into the blocks. What's preventing you from really allowing some aspect of yourself on an emotional and kind of almost spiritual level? Sorry guys, I don't know if you can, there's some animals outside that are making some interesting noises. Okay, so anyway, so what's preventing you from kind of taking this newfound connection to truth, clarity on some aspect of yourself that you know needs to be released? And what's the challenge of you kind of bringing that forward in having a second go around with something and connecting to it on this kind of beautifully emotionally innocent level? Again, now if this is kind of like when you think about it, let's say you were reconnecting with, you're having a second chance at committing to a current partnership. And let's say, you know, maybe you've gone through some difficult times, you've felt that the love has been lost, or there's been tension and frustration. But now you understand that there's something's happened in your life that has been divinely placed there to allow you to understand. Ooh, quite a bit going on here. Let's go ahead. Okay. There's something here that has happened that has been divinely timed that is allowing you to see something more clearly, allowing you to see the aspect of yourself that needs to be released, needs to be kind of transformed. And okay, I'm just taking a look here. So let me go over these cards. And you know what? I just realized I chose a different deck for you guys, Capricorn. I was actually going to use Ethereal Visions, but apparently this is the deck instead. So really interesting. All right. So the first card out is Judgment. We have 5 of Wands, Knight of Wands, 7 of Swords, and the Star. So in your first challenge card, so this is your primary challenge card here, we have Judgment. And Judgment is a card that really speaks to being called up as a new version of yourself. You know, the original depiction of Judgment is people rising from the dead, basically being heralded by Gabriel and Archangel Gabriel. And so there is this feeling here, which I think is very interesting, of that there's a part of yourself that needs to be released, needs to die, so to speak. And Judgment is coming in to say that you know in some aspect of yourself that there's a part of you waiting to be reborn. There's a part of you waiting to be tempered and to be brought out so that you can have a second go at, I almost want to say life, have a second go at life, but with this new fresh perspective of having released something that was not allowing you to feel free, not allowing you to truly connect in this beautiful kind of innocent childlike way with life. And this can be, Judgment becomes a challenge when we don't want to rise up, when we're afraid to do so, when we know that in hearing the call to change something dramatically, especially because this is usually internally, hearing that call internally, that it will change things externally for us. And with the 5 of Wands coming up directly after that, there's this feeling of a little bit of chaos. You understand that you're going to have to kind of get back out there and deal with what's been changed. But the beautiful thing of the 5 of Wands is that the 5 of Wands is almost like, yes, it can feel chaotic. It's almost like jumping into something that maybe you had once done. And you have, let's say you used to play tennis. And, you know, you used to love playing tennis, and then you kind of just fell out of the habit, and it's been 15, 20 years since you've played tennis. But you just feel like you really want to do that. You want to pick back up that hobby, and you really want to get out there. Well, the first couple times you go out to play tennis, it's probably going to feel a little chaotic. It's going to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember how to swing the racket, or I don't remember how to maybe, you know, run here and run there and pivot and do all these things. I don't know how to serve the ball. And it will feel a little bit like this, a little chaotic. But the more that you do it, the more that you get out there and kind of, I would say, like shake off the dust or kind of get rid of the rust, that the more you are actually then allowing yourself to get back into something that you had originally been proficient at. And so it's almost like kind of muscle memory at that point. All of a sudden you'll kick in and say, oh yeah, I remember how, okay, I served like this. And I remember that I used to do this. And so really that's kind of what Spirit's kind of leading you to do here, is to say, yeah, that initial kind of phase of getting back out there in a different form, that initial kind of coming out and making this big change in your life. Now this could be, again, something that by recommitting, let's say, to a partner that you have maybe thought about, you guys maybe were discussing divorce or something like that. Yeah, that could create a little chaos. You do know that, maybe you guys are going to have to sit down and really hash things out, and it's going to cause you to have to really kind of air some dirty laundry, so to speak, or to make some big life changes if you're going to commit to each other. I kind of get this feeling of like 1 foot in and 1 foot out, Capricorn. And so there's like this feeling now of like, you hear the call, you know what part of yourself kind of needs to be let go. And it's time to deal with the chaos that might come from that. And what I'm seeing here is that that's not a bad thing. It's not something you should be afraid of, because the heart of your reading, what Spirit's asking you to embrace, is the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is a card that really speaks to kind of getting out there and doing what feels good. The Knight of Wands holds his wand, he's on a horse, and he moves freely. And he is one who is going to, if it doesn't feel good, he's not going to do it. Now, there is a shadow side to the Knight of Wands, where that can be somebody who is maybe not as, I'm trying to think how we would say it, not as dependable, kind of the person that kind of comes in and comes out very quickly. But here, where you're being asked to embrace the best part of this, what this card represents, is that you're being asked to go out there and remember the reason why you're being asked to let a version of yourself go and come out as this new, fresh version, and to battle a little bit of the chaos and make the choice to commit to something, is because you're being asked to connect with passion again. You're being asked it's okay to do what feels good. It is okay to do that. But there is, with the Seven of Swords coming up on the other side, there's a little bit of this, I think, where sometimes with the shadow energy, we can get a little too much into the Knight of Wands, of like doing too much of what feels good and then trying to kind of run away from the consequences, which is the Seven of Swords. But for some of you, that may be the case. For others, the other feeling I'm getting here is that there's more of the feeling of you are kind of sabotaging yourself from truly just allowing yourself to go out and do what feels good. You're sabotaging yourself, almost trying to like sneak away from kind of taking the reins of your own life, taking the reins of your passion, taking your ability to act and to actually move towards really kind of being the one who is the jockey of your own horse, so to speak. That there's a little feeling of, kind of sitting here on a mental level and feeling almost like you're like sitting a little bit with, is it worth it for me to do this? Is it, how can I not have to do this? How can I get away from shirking the call, from shirking having to commit to something, or shirking releasing something? Because your final challenge here is the Star. And the Star is your singular, unique hope, dream, ultimate wish for yourself. And with that coming up as your final challenge, it's something where I think the second chance is directly connected to your hope, your greatest hope, wish, or dream. That there's something deep inside that you've always fantasized about or longed for, but yet you always felt somehow that it wasn't for you, with the Seven of Swords coming up right here. That there's this feeling of, well, if I chase that, then I'm going to have to basically, get stuck in this. It's almost like I feel for you guys, you tried to go for your Star at one point. You tried, and it didn't work out, and now you're getting the second chance to do something differently. But in order to do something differently and achieve a different result, you have to internally change first. And I think, Capricorn, you understand this. You understand there's some aspect of yourself that is being asked to be transformed and released, to free you, to allow this new clarity of self to come through in a physical way here with judgment. And for you to kind of go out, yes, deal with a little bit of the chaos, get out there and start practicing with your wand, and do it again differently this time. But again, being faced with a second go around at something, if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. And actions have to come first based on our emotions and based on our current clarity of perception. So meaning that it's almost like you need to see something in a different way, that you're gaining clarity and insight in seeing maybe your own role in why you didn't achieve the star to begin with, or why the first time around it was chaotic and didn't quite work. And now you're getting this beautiful second chance to really lean in and go for it again. And again, this could be around a contractual agreement, but I do think that, why Spirit's asking you to do this is to understand this greater level of fairness and equality that perhaps you feel has not been there. Okay. I do feel that the scales are being balanced and that something is going to come into balance for you that's really going to allow you to see and be grateful for the second chance. You're going to see kind of why you're being faced here with judgment, why you're being faced with this big internal change. And it's also that you can greet this external change from a place of emotional maturity and with a sense actually of excitement and a deep, almost innocent kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to pull a card here. So I'm going to pull 3 cards. We're going to pull a card for curiosity, courage, and contemplation. And this is where I engage the Triad of Engagement, which I use in my coaching practice to help bring what is a very general message down into an individualized message for you. So we're going to be looking at here specifically what Spirit would like you to be curious about, so that as you move through the month of March, you kind of keep this question in mind to allow yourself to bring awareness to some aspect of something in your life experience that can help overcome this challenge. So we have 6th chakra, Archangel Metatron, number 40. Breaking down to a 4. So this card speaks to the 6th chakra, which is sometimes called the third eye chakra. And I love this card coming through now because there is something about being asked to see through the eyes of Spirit, being able to see what is, but overlaid with basically the divine law of justice, the divine design, so to speak. So what I would ask yourself, Capricorn, for as you move through the month of March is really to allow yourself to have the courage to release some aspect of yourself, to allow yourself to be free, to rise up as this new version of you, to kind of get back out, to have this second chance at something. Really think about asking yourself, where can you look at what has happened in your life up to this point, or even what is just right now in the present moment? Where can you look at it through the eyes of the divine and to see the justice and the harmony and the lessons and the gratitude for having a second chance now at something? Okay, so now we're going to pull a card here for the concept of courage. Okay, that's a little too many. Let's see if we can get a few less there. And this is where Spirit would like you to have the courage to take action for the month of March. This is an important step here. Oh, beautiful. It says surrender to effortlessness. It says stop pushing so hard. The art of living means going with the flow instead of trying to force the river. Okay, beautiful. So this really does connect here with this. When you think about surrendering to effortlessness, and it says stop pushing so hard. When you're thinking about taking action, sometimes we feel like we're the ones that have to push. We're the ones that have to kind of carry the weight of everything. And when you think about somebody who has died and is being called up again as a new version of themselves, or perhaps as a spirit, they have let go of all of their kind of earthly responsibilities and weight. And I really feel here that that's kind of what Spirit's asking for you now. It's not that you need to physically die, but that the weight of who you were, with all of the emotions and all of the actions that you took that maybe produced an undesirable result, or that maybe just has left you feeling heavy and burdened, is being asked to be released so that you can move forward as a lighter, more agile version of yourself, so that you can float up to meet your star, so you can rise to meet your star. So I get this feeling, kind of like what I had kind of seen to begin with. There's an element of divinity coming through, that the time is now for this change. That's why you're hearing the call. That's why things are lining up in your life to allow for this change to take place. And you just have to go with the flow. You don't have to, I really get this feeling, this isn't a month to like plan, and this isn't a month to push ahead. This is almost like a month to kind of go back in and just settle and let anything that feels heavy, whether it's on an emotional level, on a mental level, it's time to let that go. Let it go and realize at any point in our lives, we can always be transformed. We can always be reborn, and we can always try again. And this is a time for you now, Capricorn, to do so, which I think is very beautiful. It's interesting because I don't know if any of you guys have watched that TV show 1883, but it ends very sadly. Spoiler alert for anybody who is watching. But there's a beautiful point at the end that speaks to the realization of this type of effortlessness in life. When we realize that life was never meant to be as hard as we make it sometimes, because we are the ones who judge ourselves. We are the ones who judge others. We put ourselves in a place of kind of jury and executioner and all of that. And it's time now, or it's not time now, but it's in the realization that life is actually, we're given all of the things needed to actually lead a relatively easy life, that we are given everything we need to survive in a level of beautiful abundance on this earth. And we are given that through the divine. And sometimes it's just in releasing and realizing, yeah, I can just wait for it to rain to get water. I can literally just lay on my back and allow water from the sky to like trickle into my mouth. I don't have to, dig a 100-foot hole, and I don't have to climb to the top of a mountain. Sometimes we forget that there are things in this life that just come easily. And I really feel for you, Capricorn, it's time to step into that mentality, that realization that, yeah, sometimes things can just be that easy. Life can be just that good. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your back. You can allow the divine to provide for you. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a final card here for the concept of contemplation. And this is where Spirit would like you to, or what Spirit would like you to reflect on for the month of March, kind of as an underlying theme for this entire message. Kind of what to hold yourself accountable to for the month of March. Now, Capricorn, I really do get this feeling with justice that this is the lesson kind of coming through, is that maybe you've held yourself up to being justice, to being, again, kind of like the judge and the jury and the executioner. And it's time to realize that is beyond us. Judgment comes from the divine. And the jury is one of, when we think about it, the jury is truly our peers, but if you go beyond that, it's in the angelic realms. It's in the divine as well. And so we are being judged by those who love us, who understand that life is difficult, who understand the challenges that we go through. And if you can remember that no matter the strife that you go through, it is being understood and seen and appreciated. But now you're being asked to realize that the balance is coming back around, that for all of the struggle and the strife and what you've kind of had to put in that felt heavy, it will equally feel light if you accept and hear this call and release and allow yourself this second chance. So we have Sisterhood of the Rose. We have Beauty and Devotion, Priestess, Mystic, Teacher. Interesting because Virgo got this card as well. And for you, Capricorn, there's this element here of, when I think of beauty and devotion, and, for Virgo, I really said, it's not about being, a priestess, a mystic, a teacher. And I really focused on beauty and devotion. But I actually almost feel here more, Capricorn, that there is some aspect of something that you can teach. And that maybe it's not even something you can teach. It might be something more about you being the student to a certain extent, of understanding that, yes, we live, you are an earth sign, and we do live in a physical world. And Capricorn, your motto as an astrological sign is I use. So you are a sign that really, you're the cardinal earth sign. So you have the ability to take whatever you need from your environment to use it to create the outcome that you want. But there's this element of kind of leaning into the mystery of life, that sometimes we have to just go beyond what we can see and touch and feel and use, and realize that at some certain points in our life, there really is an element of divinity that comes through that allows us to kind of jump into the river of destiny and just flow with it. And that is where we are able to, in kind of moving in that place and moving with lightness of being and in flow with life, and realizing that we can simply just go out and, do what feels good. That's kind of what we're meant to do, is to follow our passions and to try them out and to experience life in that very, with that kind of childlike sense of awe and wonder, that's where we get a chance to step into truly seeing the beauty in everything, truly seeing through the eyes of blind justice. That justice is blindfolded, and that they are able to go within and tap into their intuition or tap into their connection to spirit, to see through the eyes of spirit, to see beyond what we can only perceive in the physical. And that's really where I think this whole message is asking you to kind of have faith, but to go beyond, see the divinity in the situation, and basically everything that's led up to now, to who you are now. See the divinity in it, and to see the timing as to why you're feeling this kind of call to release and to, rise up as something new, and realize it's because you're having a second chance at a deep hope, wish, or dream fulfillment for yourself. And you just have to surrender to it. You just have to allow yourself to see the beauty in life, and allow, I'm really strongly hearing this, allow for the tangible world, the earth, to provide for you. Allow the universe to provide for you. And just make it easy. Just allow it to be easy. What I was kind of alluding to with the scene from 1883 is that they were kind of, there was an element of talking about watching birds and watching birds kind of peck at the hard ground. But then yet after it rains, they can go, like birds will go out right after it rains, and everything is much easier to get through, right? That they can sit there, the ground is softened, and so they can get to the seeds and the earthworms and all the things that are always under the surface. Now the birds could go out there and peck and peck and peck and peck and peck on the dry earth and get nothing. Or the birds can stop and enjoy the beauty and just enjoy the rest and wait for the rain. And then they can go down and very easily get all the nourishment they need. And that's really what I'm going to leave you with here, Capricorn, is that there's something there that to be said about allowing yourself to do the easy thing, to do what feels good and what feels easy, and commit to that. Commit to understanding that that's what you're being asked to do now, and you don't have to carry all of the other burdens with you. It's like it's not your way anymore. Your way is to have the second chance and to allow to have faith in the divine, that the divine will create things, support for you, that as you move towards this second chance and you embrace it, that you'll be given everything you need to support you in doing so, in this new version of yourself. Otherwise you would not be being asked to be called up by the divine as this new version of yourself if it wasn't so. All right, Capricorns, I hope you have a wonderful month of March. If you would like to illuminate your own personal spiritual importance and to see how it can be of service to yourself and others, you can click on the link in the description box below to visit my website to book a personal reading or a one-on-one coaching session. And for all of you, if I don't see you until April, once again, have a very lovely month of March. Bye, Capricorn.